Making it work, sourdough breadcrumbs, Mark. Hey, welcome to this episode of Making It Work. I'm going to be making some sourdough breadcrumbs. Not that that's any big deal, but you know, sometimes you need sourdough, or sometimes you need breadcrumbs. It don't have to be sourdough, but sometimes you need breadcrumbs. And for me personally, I want them made out of sourdough that I made, that I know what's in it. And I want to bake them on parchment paper. And there's a lot of recipes floating around out there for breadcrumbs. But for me personally, I think it's all about just making sure that they're toasted and flavored with something. So I've got about a teaspoon and a half of Italian seasoning in here, about a quarter teaspoon of salt, onion powder, and garlic powder, and probably an eighth or somewhere between an eighth and a quarter of pepper. That's what I'm going to season mine with. So the toasting part definitely is important because you want them to be kind of, you know, dried out. I'm going to turn on about 300 because you want to toast them, but not, you know, not overdo it, not overbrown them. So I've got some. This is probably the ugliest loaf of sourdough I ever made because I was at work while it was rising and it rose up and over the side of the pan, and I've baked it like that before, but the edges got really brown, so I dumped them back in, and that was obviously a mistake. But anyway, it'll make really good breadcrumbs. So I'm just gonna kind of this is getting a little on the tough side, as sourdough will do. I made this about 5 days ago, I think. So this is 5-day-old bread, which isn't a big deal for the store-bought stuff, but for sourdough, yeah, it kind of loses its, I don't know. It's getting tough. It gets tough and crumbly, which is perfect for breadcrumbs. So I have 2 food processors. One I use specifically for like soap and that type of things, soap, laundry, detergent, and one I use for food. So this is a food one. I'm just going to kind of break these up in here a little bit. And put about half of that in there. Dump these out. Parchment lined. I don't know about any kind of sticking problems or anything, but just because it's an aluminum pan and I don't want the aluminum in my food. Ooh, that's going to make quite a bit. I'll probably do a couple more of those. Do a few more here. So yeah, I'm just breaking these up about, you know, that size pieces. Whatever your food processor can handle. Now you could toast these and then kind of grind them up, but for me, this is the easiest way to do things. Okay, that one's gonna be all that crumbs. Put some cherry butter on that, that'll be good. The rest of that seasoning. Good. Might ought to use 2 pans. Could do that. I think it'll toast better if I do 2 pans, so let me grab another pan. Okay, I've got another pan. Got my parchment paper on there. I'll dump these crumbs out on it. So again, that was 6 slices of sourdough bread, kind of ripped up and put in the food processor. And the whole thing has about a teaspoon and a half of Italian seasoning, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, garlic powder and onion powder, and about between an eighth and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, ground black pepper. Alright, so the oven isn't ready yet, but as soon as it's ready, I'll put them in there, and then I'll just start checking it at intervals of about 10 minutes a piece. And you want them to get browned, dry, good and dried out is basically what you want. Not necessarily brown. Brown is okay, but you're going for dried out. And that's pretty much it. But I will show you the final product when it comes out of the oven. Okay, here we are 20 minutes later. They are lightly browned, but just, really crumbly. And I am about to make a meatloaf, and it smells so good in here before I even make the meatloaf. Nothing like Italian seasoning on the breadcrumbs. That is how you make sourdough breadcrumbs. These breadcrumbs, now that they're done, they will store I just store them like in a gallon-sized plastic bag. And I've stored them for up to about a month at a time, no problems. But anyway, that's how you store them. That's how you make and store sourdough breadcrumbs. Thanks for watching Making It Work.